everyone, hope you all are doing good. So today I thought I'd do a quick and dirty review of the new 9.7-inch iPad Pro. With the new iPad Pro, you get a lot of nice little upgrades over the previous iPad Air 2, and seeing as how I use my iPad Air 2 pretty much every day, especially for gaming and playing Real Racing 3, I wanted to see if the 9.7 Pro would be noticeably faster with loading times in Real Racing, and in just overall day-to-day use, to see if it was worth upgrading to from an iPad Air 2. So let's start by quickly running down the main differences and show you what you get with the new model. So here's the iPad Pro 9.7 next to the old iPad Air 2 on the left. You can see it's the exact same weight and dimensions as the iPad Air 2, including the 10-hour rated battery life. But there are some minor physical differences. First, you get better cameras in the front and back, both giving you more megapixels, and the rear camera now has a flash and does 4K video, which if you don't use the camera much on your tablet, this isn't a big deal, but it's definitely a nice upgrade. And the low light performance is also improved versus the Air 2, so slightly better there. And the front camera is sharper and noticeably less grainy versus the one on the iPad Air 2, which is definitely nice if you FaceTime a lot or use other apps which make use of the front camera. One thing to note is the lens now protrudes on the back of the iPad, similar to how the iPhone 6 does, but somehow it doesn't wobble when you set it flat on the desk, so it's really not an issue. Now you do get the smart connector for keyboard use, but this isn't a huge upgrade here because on older models you can just use a Bluetooth keyboard anyway, although that means you have to deal with some pairing issues sometimes. The new 9.7 Pro also allows the Apple Pencil input, so if you require pencil input for your work, you love drawing and sketching, or really just use any apps that need the pen input, then you'll want to go with the iPad Pro models for that. The last physical difference here is that it now has 4 speaker grills, so you get 2 added on the top. This does give you much louder and fuller sounding audio, which I'll demo for you here in a second, but the placement of the top speaker grills are now near the side edges. So when you have it turned in landscape mode for doing things like watching Netflix or playing, say, Real Racing, you have to be careful not to block the speaker or you'll muffle the sound somewhat. Still, it's a big improvement, and here's a quick comparison of the two. So here's the iPad Air on the left, iPad Air 2, and the iPad Pro on the right. It's going to be a little bit tough because just picking up through the microphone on camera, but it should give you a little bit of a sense. So a lot bigger sound from the iPad Pro and just plays a lot louder. They were both on max volume there. You do have some significant improvements in the screen as well. Still, it's the same resolution, but the colors are better and the screen is 25% brighter, which is noticeable, especially when you have them side by side. There's also the True Tone feature, which essentially just matches your screen to the ambient lighting, so it's a little easier to read in all kinds of different lighting conditions. Overall, the screen is a definite improvement. It's better, and one app you can kind of see an obvious difference here with that is within the Kindle app. If you enjoy reading, the Pro model just looks a lot more natural and surprisingly very, very similar to just a paperback book, which is awesome. You can see here the old iPad Air 2 has kind of a bluish tint to it, and it's a little colder versus the warmer leaning iPad Pro screen you see on the right. Also, the new screen is less reflective, even though this was a little hard to demonstrate outdoors. But the resulting reduction in glare, I think, definitely helps contribute to the paperback quality look of the text, and just made reading on the iPad easier, whether it was in Safari, email, or really in any other app. Finally, you do get the upgraded processors in the new iPad Pro 9.7. Now, while a lot of people like to show Geekbench scores here, I think it's really kind of completely pointless. Does it mean anything to you that one may score an arbitrary 10,300 and then the other device scores 9,200? I mean, to me, it doesn't matter one bit. What matters is how fast the iPad actually feels when you're using it, navigating the OS, jumping in and out of the apps, and waiting for different things to load. So then, how was the experience with the iPad Pro 9.7 and its new CPU? Well, the updated internals were actually one of the main reasons I decided to try the new Pro out. Since I play a ton of Real Racing and it takes a lot of time to constantly be cycling in and out of race menus and to restart and reset the game, and occasionally it would drop frames and do some stutters, I thought I'd give the new iPad a try out, hoping it would cure all those issues. And while it was better playing on the iPad Pro, it didn't completely fix everything. I would still get some frame drops here and there, although definitely not as often, and gameplay was a lot smoother. And just in everyday use, the iPad Pro did feel slightly faster, but it was only barely. And everything loaded faster. But overall, it just wasn't enough of a difference compared to the iPad Air 2, in my opinion, to warrant an upgrade. So is the iPad Pro 9.7 worth buying? To me, without a doubt. I think it's the best overall tablet experience you can get. And if you're already in the market for a new iPad or tablet, or just wanting to upgrade from any other generation iPad besides the Air 2, the sum of all the improvements definitely justifies the price premium on this. But if you don't have a real need for the Apple Pencil or on a little bit more of a budget, I say save yourself a couple $100 and pick up a 64GB iPad Air 2, which you can find online for only around $400 right now. And to me, that's a great deal on a really excellent tablet. To me, it just wasn't a significant enough boost in gaming performance, and since I don't really use the camera much, I was never unhappy with the screen performance. I think I'll sit this generation out. But anyways, that's all. Thanks a lot for watching, you guys. Take care.